While I am sharing my screen or getting my screen shared, I do want to point out the next agenda item is for the Aspen poll for AspenCon. So we are hoping to host our very first AspenCon in spring of 2024. And we have a poll going for where that AspenCon should be. We talked about this at the last Aspen gathering, but the committee is not meeting for another week. So you have until I think next Wednesday, if you've not submitted your preference for where you would like AspenCon to be. And even if you're not planning on attending in person, there's also a virtual option check in there. So it's just kind of nice for us to know if we're starting to think about numbers who would want to be there and where we want to go. So we thank you in advance for filling that out if you haven't already. Okay, so on to the review of the 2212 release. If this is your first Aspen gathering, at every Aspen gathering, we like to take a look at what we said we were going to do or what we planned to do versus what we actually got done for the release. And this one's nice and pretty because we got everything done, which is great. At the top of all of these, it always says partner priorities and high priority bugs. We do make it a priority to look at the tickets and to make sure and to look at your priorities and to make sure that we're trying to tick those things off. So many of the things that Mark showed you are not on this list. And that's why, because they were coming directly from partner priorities or some of those high priority bugs like the content cafe integration is one that we said it's slowing everybody down. We just got to get something out for that. Other things that we did were the improvements to linked accounts. So again, thank you to the group that put together what they wanted to see for linked accounts. It's really exciting to see that come together. Second was the updates to the name fields, and these were for the preferred names that Mark showed you. Both of those said part one. We knew we were doing a bunch of things that we could easily kind of split into two, so there's more coming for those, and you'll see that as we talk about our plan for the next release. LIDA facets and filters, we didn't do a LIDA demo today. Because we did facets and filters last month, and we spent kind of the first half of this release smoothing out some of those workflows in the week we had between when we released to test servers and production, and making sure that all the different combinations of filters and all of that worked smoothly. And then we also had some other work with LIDA. We did some code maintenance work to make sure that everything is being pushed to the app providers in the way that the app providers want it. So we just had to do some background work there. And then the last one is not something that we're going to see for a little while, but a good amount of work was done last month and a good amount of work will be done next month. This is the shared Aspen development tasks. One of the big requests we've gotten over the last year is, I want to see what other people are requesting. I want to be able to maybe vote on it. Another thing that we are getting more of is developers for Aspen, which is fantastic. We want as many people as possible able to contribute to Aspen. But right now, all of your requests are in the Bywater ticketing system. So we need a way to be able to share those requests and for developers to say, hey, I'm working on this. So right now we're kind of building those pieces into Aspen where developers can say, hey, ooh, that's actually the piece we're doing first. Hey, I want to work on this task. I can see this task. And then once we get that going so we can help the developers work better, then we're going to work on making those transparent to all of you so that you can kind of see those tasks too and kind of express support or maybe give additional ideas or examples. So again, yeah, it looks our release went according to plan, which is great. So this is our plan for the next release. Because it's the last month of the year, we're really trying to tie up a lot of things that we've been working on. And normally we try to finish features within a release, but we let you know last month we were going to have some part twos. So as always, partner priorities and high priority bugs at the top. Improvements to linked accounts. So what you'll be seeing there is a little bit more messaging within Aspen that I know everyone asked for. You'll also be seeing the integration with LIDA so that they'll also be getting notifications within LIDA and some little visual indicators within LIDA. And you'll also be seeing the group that met to talk about this requested email notifications. We know that not everyone checks into Aspen all the time. So they wanted a way for someone to be notified that their account has been linked to if they don't log into Aspen. So we will be doing an email for that as well. Updates to name fields. We have a bunch of different ILSs. So we showed you a couple different ILSs today. Those are actually the ones that partners had put in tickets for and made requests for. But we also made a call out to the community to say, hey, does anyone have any additional thoughts on what we could do with names or pronouns? And we got a couple more recommendations. So we're going to take care of those recommendations this month. Next, like I said, the shared Aspen development tasks, that's going to be ongoing. I expect a part 3 with that one. I don't for the other two. I think we'll finish up those other two. Another one is a request we've gotten a good number of times within LIDA to show the barcodes for linked accounts. So if you think about a parent with 3 kids with them and they all want to check out their books on their library card, now you'll be able to see all of those library cards within one app, which I'm really excited about. For this month, like I said, we're trying to tie up a bunch of loose ends with some of those features and also kind of going through some of the partner priorities and high priority bugs. Just little things we want to do before the end of the year. I put in some stretch goals in here because sometimes with those things, we don't know exactly how long they would take. So I wanted to give you an idea of what might be coming if we happen to have the time. Because we're looking at email notifications for the linked accounts, I figured it was a good time to kind of maybe combine that work if we can with email notifications for saved searches. So we're hopefully looking at that as well. Another feature is website indexing using sitemaps. So right now, if you want to index a website into Aspen, you can absolutely do that, but it crawls the website through links within the website, which causes problems for some things like paging, or if you have pages that aren't necessarily linked from other pages. So we want the ability to index that website through the sitemap if the sitemap is published. So we're looking at doing that. And then the last one is reading history in LIDA, which we don't have right now and we really like to offer you. So that is our plan for the next release. I see there's some chat there. I'm going to click in and see if anything's in there. Oh, okay, wonderful. Yep, and if you do have any questions on any of this, please do put it in the chat and I will pause for questions in a bit. This year, this month, because we're cleaning up loose ends, like I said, we don't necessarily have a big discussion like we normally have here, or sometimes we have too many discussions and we have trouble finishing them. So what I thought I'd do instead is just kind of look over the 2022 year and kind of highlight some of the bigger things that we've developed. So if you missed 1 or 2 Aspen gatherings, this is kind of your opportunity to be like, oh, I need to learn more about that one because I want to make sure that it's turned on, or, oh, I didn't realize we did that work. So like I've said several times already, we always try to prioritize what our partners are asking for, what you're putting in tickets on, but we also try to do these larger initiatives that impact multiple libraries or several libraries. So I just kind of went through the release notes for the whole year and kind of pulled out some of the bigger features. Again, this is not everything. These are just the big things that we did this year. So for improvements to existing features, we have asked in the past, should we do new things? What we always hear from you is, please keep making Aspen better. So we did. Early this year, we did a lot with search enhancements and improvements to filters and grouped works. We combed through all of the tickets that we had kind of tagged with search, and we looked at how those filters worked because there were some different things with how numbers showed up and how filters interacted with each other. And we did a whole bunch of work on that with your input and how facets and filters should work within Aspen. The next thing I wanted to highlight was the project to update formats. This was a recent one. As we know, libraries are buying new formats all the time, and we just need to make sure that Aspen supports those. Whenever I think of this, I think of all the new playaway formats and how we did the work to show those. The next is the group work language updates. Prior to this year, if 2 books in different languages had the same title, they tended to group together. And if they didn't, they did not, which wasn't really consistent across Aspen. It was nice sometimes because it lets you, you could see that you had a Spanish version of the title, but because it's not consistent, it didn't always work. So we talked to all of you about what we should do here. And as a group, we made the decision that languages should be separate. So we should have a grouped work for the Spanish version versus a grouped work for the English version. So we did the work to kind of separate out all of those, and the way that we did it actually could lead to some interesting stuff in the future where we can maybe suggest books in a different language. So we also have this in Spanish if you're looking at the English title, for example. We also did some work where the ILS allows it to, if users forget their PINs or need to reset them, we can do that. Web Builder page permissions. This one was really fun. We said for Web Builder pages, you can only show them to authenticated users. So if you had things like pages that led out to databases, we could authenticate that patron first. The other thing we did with this was it allowed you to restrict it to staff only, which then means you can create an entire intranet in Web Builder, and all those pages are only available to staff. Next on the list, going through these really fast, website indexer filters. These were just if you're indexing multiple websites or if you wanted to assign some metadata to websites that you were indexing to show in Aspen, you could do that. Improvements to linked accounts, which you just saw the beginning of, so that's great. And then you actually got a demo of this one today, just incidentally, on the two-factor authentication that we did. And we've also done some work with SSO. The SSO was in partnership with PTFS Europe, and we're still doing a little bit of work on that. Every SSO is a little bit different. It's not something you can just turn on. It's something you have to work with us on. And we are working with some other libraries on that. With Aspen, we always say one of Aspen's big roles is to pull everything together. So we did do new integrations, notably 2 entire ILSs. This was an enormous amount of work, both for our team and for the first libraries implementing these. So if you think about all the testing that goes into making sure that all of Aspen works correctly, there's quite a lot there. We also did an additional event integration with LibCal, a couple different e-commerce integrations. Some we finished up, some are ongoing, and then also the EBSCO-host integration. So I just want to give a little round of applause to our developers. They did an enormous amount of work this year. I also wanted to just call out LIDA especially. Something that I forget is that LIDA launched just a little bit over a year ago. I think because Aspen's been around for so long, in my mind, LIDA's been around a long time too, but really it's just been a little over a year. So I wanted to highlight kind of our LIDA top 10 for the year. We did a couple things with notifications, custom notifications, where you can decide a patron group to send a special specific notice to and then direct them to somewhere in Aspen or anywhere on the web. Notifications for saved searches if patrons get something new on a saved search. The facets and filters that we've been talking about that we just finished up last month. Personalization with browse categories where they can show and hide browse categories, and then it will also show their personalized browse categories when the library set up browse categories for lists or saved searches. We've also worked really hard on performance improvements. App development is really different. We continue to do this work, and we thank all of you that are helping us with that to make sure that Aspen is working in the way that patrons expect. Saving and viewing lists, you can add materials to lists, you can view your lists within LIDA. Linked accounts are also available within LIDA, and we'll be getting more enhancements on that soon. Library branded LIDA is huge. So in case you weren't aware, and I think you'd have to be living under a rock not to know, but if you have Aspen Discovery, you get LIDA with Aspen Discovery. That just comes with it as part of our shared app. But if you want it branded for your library, and really the only difference here, the functionality is all the same, but if you want it to have your library name and the patrons search for your library name in the App Store, we can set it up either way. And we can set it up also for an entire consortium or individual members of a consortium. A little bit of a smaller feature, but still very appreciated by people that use it as dark mode. So LIDA, you have kind of the normal white mode or the darker mode. And then also additional data for items. We talked to a couple of members and they wanted to see some more information on the item pages, and we added that information. So that was a whirlwind, just, hey, this is what we did this year. And again, I just want to shout out to our developers. Our developer team has grown this year, both within Bywater and within contributors outside of Bywater. So just wanted to say thank you so much. The other thing that we did, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. I put together a little bit of a survey. We want to know what your thoughts are on kind of how we did this year. Are we meeting your expectations as far as we always try to develop the most important thing? We don't tend to show long-term roadmaps because they always change. And even what's most important to do next is always changing. But we wanted to stop and reflect on that. So there's a survey link. And sorry for the double surveys this month, but it's not that long, I promise. A survey link in there kind of asking us how we did, both in terms of meeting your library's needs and kind of across all of libraries. And then also some ideas, we're asking you for some ideas on what you think we should work on in the future. So whether that's existing areas of Aspen to focus on or big new ideas that you think we should look at. So please just take a few minutes to fill out that survey. Ideally 1 per library. We know that gets kind of messy. It does ask for your name. So, if a couple people fill it out, it's fine. We're really looking for the feedback. And we do kind of look to see, like, if one library is dominating it, we're definitely going to notice that. So we'd appreciate 1 per library would be ideal. So that's what I have for you. And are there any questions? I don't see any. Okay. then I'm going to pass it off to Tara to give you an update on our last Aspen community meeting.
I just was going to share a few highlights from our last meeting that might be of interest to folks. We had some great discussion topics, and James brought quite a few of them. So I don't know if you would like to elaborate on any of them, but I think two of the major ones were getting together a group to look at the opportunities to improve the grouping algorithm. So Keisha, James and Brian and Scott from Swan will be coordinating a meeting to kind of kick that off and look at things like, I think one of the big topics that came up was hoopla grouping. And then we also discussed getting some folks together to write some automated tests for Aspen when there are Aspen releases. Those are the big things. In our next meeting, I should know this off the top of my head. I think it's coming up in January, if I remember from looking at the calendar recently. So we hope to see you joining those community meetings in the new year, or also on Slack and the community channel.
Thank you, Tara and James and everyone that comes to the community meetings. And I'm just going to segue into the next little bit, those calendars that you were talking about. So the next community meeting is January 17th. So I just wanted to point out this past year we did a 2022 calendar. We asked for feedback a couple months ago at the Aspen Gathering. And so we just kind of kept with the same format for 2023, changed up the dates. The Zoom links and everything should, remain consistent. I think if you already had like the invite on your calendar as a recurring invite, it should have just extended. But please just like bookmark these links. Using the links, it gives us an opportunity if anything does change that we can just update them so that you always have the most up-to-date information. But if you have any questions about that, those are all available for you there. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, one major thing that we did kind of on the education and implementation team this year that I'm sure you all use hopefully and go to is the Help Center. And then with that, we really focused on, and that's help.aspendiscovery.org. With that, we really focused just at first on the actual, just like writing down documentation, getting screenshots, little like step through tutorials. And kind of our phase 2 of that, now that we feel like we have a lot of information there, is to work on updating all of our videos. So most of our videos are from 2019, 2022. So we're really focusing on all of that content now. Morgan and I are trying to churn those out by the end of the year. So we will definitely update you on the progress of that project, but they will be available on YouTube, and then we'll be swapping out links that are currently there on the Help Center. So we just kind of wanted to let you know that that is currently going on, but we'll let you know when it's kind of reached everything's cleaned up phase. And of course, if you have any like suggestions or anything about the Help Center, about documentation, we're always open to improve that for you all because it's for you. Who's next? Okay, that's my documentation kind of education update. And then I have some things I think Elise wants to talk about.
Hey, we've been flying through this today. Wow. And if you've not seen the videos, please watch them right now. They are freaking amazing. So I'm just going to share real quick. This is a little more exciting for the Koha peeps than y'all, but the partners listserv, the Bywater partners listserv has now officially moved over to Google Groups. I know y'all are really active on Slack, which is great, but if you do use the listserv, it is now on Google Groups. So that no action is required on your part. We've migrated everybody over. So now it just lives in the Google group, which is really nice and convenient. So if you have any questions, you can email outreach@bywatersolutions.org. And then just wanted to come on here and promote our Librarian of the Month program that we do. Every month we ask people to nominate a librarian or library staff member at their library that's really doing outstanding work. And we feature them on social media and on our website. So our December person may or may not be in this group. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but just again, email outreach@bywatersolutions.com. And if you have somebody you'd like to nominate, that's all from me. Thanks.
We're missing Morgan, our normal host, who's out today.
Yeah.
So this is normally our open time, and we actually have it today. So many times we're right up against the edge between our demo and our conversation. So does anyone have anything they want to talk about today?
All right. Should we give people some time back in their day? Oh, there's.
We do have a question. Any advice from more seasoned people for consortia who are launching now? And I know we have a couple of consortia folks here.
Well, it depends on where you are in the process, but particularly for consortia, if you're just starting the process to move to Aspen, I highly recommend that you analyze all of your library's collections and make sure you've accounted for every one of them, because my brain sort of lost a few, and then there was these aha moments in the middle of the process that really increased my stress level because they were unusual, and so they had to be dealt with in special ways. So yeah, so up front, documenting everything really carefully. The other thing I would say is at the beginning, whoever is the decision makers, set an agreed upon feature collection that is the minimum you need to go live. So don't try to get absolutely everything you could do under the sun by your go live date. Set what that minimum is and then just work on those things. Don't worry about all the extra stuff. You can do that later. And I also, for us, it was really helpful. We ran our old catalog in parallel with Aspen for losing track, like a month and a half or 2 months or something. And that was really, really helpful because as our patrons were testing it, trying it out, they gave us good feedback that we could get things ready so that when we did the hard cut over, it would be the best for everyone.
We have a couple comments also in the chat about rolling out individual sites over a couple of months. A couple different people mentioned that and that helping them stay sane. And one library saying their initial set of libraries did a bunch of testing. Another vote for keeping things simple at first and offering more customizations as you're more comfortable, which I know a number of our consortia have done, have limited things like maybe don't do web builder right away for everyone, for example. Other thoughts, comments?
I'm just piggybacking off of that. I'll say if you're a consortium and you're giving your libraries a lot of ability to customize, make sure you train well in terms of, and be careful with the permissions, but also there's certain features in Aspen that may not be immediately, what do I want to say, clear if they're changing something on their site or changing something on browse categories, for instance. Make sure you do good training in terms of not, or at least good setup in terms of the library is not altering things that they shouldn't based on the way permissions work in Aspen.
We also have had a number of consortium related Aspen weeklies. So I am just like fetching the link for that really quick as well. We have those all together, and I think like Swan wrote one about how they were able to do their rollout, which was really helpful. So I'll share that link in just a second too.
And then in chat, there was another comment about Slack, and the Slack workspace is a great way. I love seeing all of the comments on that, and lots of libraries helping each other, which is fantastic. So lots of active discussion there. So if you're not on Slack, let us know and we can get you an invite. So. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? We got some time left. one more minute, then we can give everybody back 17 minutes of their day. And a little early. Yeah, Cal posted the link to the consortial stuff. All right. Well, should we say thanks, everybody, and have a great end of your year, and we'll talk to you next year for 2301.